Here we are again. I'm still not used to this, but hey. My last little excursion was about being in Turkey and singing in a nightclub and ending up being served a goat head in the middle of the night one night. And for some reason that made me remember having to being offered another odd for me dish, which I guess I'll wait to say whether I refused it or not. In September of 1984, I was in my fourth year as a futures broker with Merrill Lynch Futures in Atlanta, Georgia. I had been working for 4 years without traveling, which had been my passion in life and still is. And short and sweet, I informed my boss that I was going to take a 2-week trip to Australia, vacation. And little did he know, but that the night before I left a letter on his desk saying that, because I knew he would have objected to this, but I was just going to be gone by the time you read this letter. I will be on a plane to Australia, and I'm going to Australia and New Zealand for 5 weeks, not 2. So off I went, September 15th, 1984, which, interestingly, is what today is, September 15th. Anyway, I planned the trip, and my idea, what I did was I planned a week in Tahiti. And this is an aside, but before I left, I put on a whole bunch of positions for a bunch of my clients, buying the German mark, which turned out to be a loser. But off I went, thinking that everybody would be making money in the 5 weeks I was gone. I got to Tahiti and had I forget how we did it in those days. I may have made phone calls, but I had a reservation in a Tahitian bungalow right on the ocean. Everything's on the ocean there. So I got to Tahiti and spent a few days by the pool and swimming in the lagoon and enjoying myself. And at night, sitting in a bar at the hotel or elsewhere. And there are a couple parts to this. First part was, I think the first night I was there, I ended up meeting a lady at the bar. I just still remember she was dressed all in white and had a white fedora. And she was quite interesting. She was from a pearl diving family, actually. And she'd come there to sell pearls, I guess. Anyway, short and sweet, it was a dark bar. I ended up back in my room with her. And when she took off the hat, this sounds pretty stupid, but when she took off her hat, I realized that she was about 30 years older than me, or not that much. So I was 34, she was in her 50s, and I hadn't even picked up on it. And that just, I don't know. Not an ageist, but that turned me off anyway. I ended up by telling her that I was, in fact, I used this several times, that I was Catholic and didn't believe in sex before marriage or something. Anyway, that was a long night doing nothing. Maybe the next day, several days later, and I've always had an idea when I'm traveling I say yes to just about everything. Just, stay out of danger, but, hey, if somebody says you want to do this or that, I go, yeah. Because part of traveling alone, which was always my MO, was that when you travel alone, the locals tend to open up more to you, and they invite you to do stuff, and you can make decisions on the spot. And so at that same bar, there was a very attractive Tahitian girl who was the right age, and she was with a guy and another Tahitian girl who was, quite large, as in sumo wrestler kind of size. And I ended up chatting up with them. And the next thing I knew, they said, let's go. We're going up to our hideout or whatever. And I had my eye on this girl and thought that, oh yeah, I'm hitting it off with her. And I took my guitar, which I always carried with me, even though I was a lousy guitarist, and got in their Jeep. And the next thing I knew, we were driving up a mountain. Tahiti's, just a big top of a volcano or whatever. Driving up and up and up, and we arrived at a Tahitian, I guess the city dump for the city of Papeete, however you pronounce it. At any rate, we arrived up there, and this is at night. And it just looked like a giant dump. I mean, garbage everywhere. And they had built, I don't know who used, I suspect other people use this, but they had built a little bungalow up there with several rooms in it, which even included an upstairs. Okay, this is cool. We go in there and they hooked up lights, plugged in lights to a battery. They had batteries up there, so they had lights. And the next thing you know, they're serving me warm beer, which I don't really care for. And they opened a can of fish eyeballs and offered them to me. I didn't know that they canned eyeballs of fish, but that's what it was. And they were the size of a jawbreaker, and they were warm, and it did not look appetizing, and I could not get myself, as with the goat's head, to even think about putting one of those in my mouth, which I did not. But the rest of the story is this. I thought that I was up there and hanging out, maybe gonna do some good with this real pretty classic Tahitian beauty. But as it turned out, what they wanted was, I was told by the guy, who it turned out was the boyfriend of the pretty girl, that his sister, who was the large woman with him, wanted to jump in the sack with me. And I was like, I'm not interested in this. And it became a sort of thing where you are insulting my sister if you don't want to sleep with her. And the next thing I knew, the sister had taken my guitar and climbed up into this loft and was waiting for me up there. So here I am at the top of this mountain, worried about antagonizing, pissing off this guy about his sister, and he actually said to me, I'll go first if you want me to. And I'm going, good Lord, what have I gotten myself into? Anyway, I pleaded that same Catholic story that I was very religious and didn't believe in sex before marriage, and there was just no way I could do this. And I really did feel like I was in a bit of danger. Maybe it was. I'm sure. Anyway, I just held out and protested and protested and protested. And finally, the girl had my guitar. She wasn't going to give it back, all this stuff. And I don't know how, maybe they just tired of the game. But finally, after half an hour at least, they finally said, okay, let's go. And so we got back in their Jeep, and I in the back of it, and drove down the mountain. And all the way down the mountain, they were trying to persuade. I'm going, I need to get back to my hotel, I've got a flight tomorrow, or whatever I was telling them. And they kept trying to say, let's go somewhere else. Anyway, I ended up, as they pulled into the driveway of my hotel to the entrance, and they were still trying to get me to go with them, I literally jumped out of their Jeep while it was still moving, out of the back of the Jeep with my guitar, and all but ran into the hotel. And that was that. So I don't eat fish eyeballs either. The rest of the story is on to Australia and New Zealand, but that's another time. So thanks for watching. Bye.